Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Attack on Productions. Fluff here, coming at you with another deck profile. Yet again, doing Syn Shenron, but before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, and all the fun YouTube-y stuff that we usually ask you guys to do. This was the deck that I decided to take this weekend at our, I guess you want to call it a monthly best of 3. And the big reason that I chose to play this deck was because I knew A, hand control was going to be around, and B, Soul Striker was going to be around. And this deck is a particularly good matchup against both of those, especially in a best 2 out of 3. I did end up taking first with the deck, so note to Bancroft, don't post this until after we've posted all the gameplay. But let's get into the deck profile. I'm not going to go over the leader. You guys know this leader. It's been out since set 10, so I'm not going to go over the leader. But one thing to note about the leader, on the front side, because you get to search your top 5 for any Shadow Dragon, it's a super consistent engine. And I'll say of the total, 7 games I played on Saturday, I think I only awakened twice the entire night, which says a lot. And one of them was a game that I lost. So, yeah, definitely. Leader boosts consistency a ton on the front side. To start out, we're going to talk about the Syn Shenron package. So we do run 4 of the negative energy 1-star balls. These just get us starting on our chain and create field presence for the new time rules. Then I do run 4 of the 4-drops. The big thing to talk about on these guys is that when they come into play, you choose leader or battle card that's in rest mode, and that card can't attack for your opponent's next turn. So if you're up against something like Soul Striker, their leader's in rest mode, you play the 4-drop, and then their leader can't attack. It just levels the playing field against Soul Striker an absolute ton, and this is by and large the MVP towards that matchup. Then we run 4 of the 9-drops because 30,000 blocker revenge that turns off skills like double strike, triple strike, dual attack, triple attack are extremely relevant in the current format. So that's the Syn Shenron package, 4 of each. Moving into the other Shadow Dragons, we play 3 Ice Shenron because we want to get our board established as soon as possible, so this lets us play our 1-star ball from the deck ASAP, so 3 of those. We play 4 Oceana Shenron because she's a consistency builder for the deck. Being able to pitch her from hand to burst 1 and then look at the top 5 and add any Shadow Dragon with an energy cost of 8 or less is a huge consistency boost across the board for the deck. Alternatively, for our Omega Shenron, she's going to be the primary target because it turns him into a 30,000 blocker, and it can also remove certain problem cards that are affecting us, like Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, or any other 2 or less that might be giving us some kind of problem. Then I run 3 of Nova Shenron. We're basically going to use this to generate our field presence. When we burst and combo off our cards, by tapping him, we burst 2, and then we get to play a Shadow Dragon with an energy cost of 2 or less, but 19,000, or 2 or more, or 19,000 or less power. So that's going to be our Ice Shenron. It's going to be the Naturon Shenron in the deck. So those are the 2 cards that we're usually going to play off this. So you just got to remember, if you already have an Ice on the field, you can't play another Ice. If you already have a Natron, you can't play a Natron. So 3 of those. 4 Haze Shenron. These are good targets for Omega Shenron in the drop area, which I think is the biggest purpose to playing these. You don't so much take advantage of his combo/attack effect unless you're in certain matchups, like there's certain blue matchups where it's really good. There's certain green matchups that it's pretty good. Some yellow matchups it's okay against. But for the most part, unless they're rivaling or something like that, or cheating out their cards, this effect doesn't come up all that often. So more often than not, this just becomes a target for the Omega Shenron to absorb and gain double strike. Then next we play 2 of these Surprise Attack Naturon Shenron. This is a great target to absorb with Omega or play with Nova because of his auto skill. When your opponent plays a card, you can choose that card. It comes into play in rest mode, essentially, and then it negates the skill for the turn. Your opponent will oftentimes forget about this effect, especially if it's stacked under your Omega, and they'll play right into it. Like, I think I had a game where someone played the Big Boy Gohan in the blue deck. I think it's the 10 drop. And I was able to tap that card down and I didn't lose. And I was able to take it the next turn and basically just win. So 2 of these, they're also double strike 15,000s, which is pretty relevant for helping to kill Unisons. And I've baited out certain counterplays by just tapping 3 and playing this guy before. Then we play 3 of the Omega Shenron. This is pretty much an absorber for us. So pretty much any Shadow Dragon that's in the drop area, save for the Syn Shenrons and other Omega Shenrons, he can warp from the drop area and basically absorb their effects. So the Oceanus, the Natron, and the Haze are going to be the primary targets for this guy. He also plays really cheap, so a really good combo that I like in the deck is while you've got your 1-star on the field, before you put out your 4-drop, is you play Nova for 1 because his power is reduced. You tap the Nova, play an Ice, you swing with Ice, and then you pop the Ice to play out the Omega after the Ice has done damage. The next turn you can use Nova again and play Ice or Natron or whatever you've got. It's just a strong tempo movement for you. And the Omega also gets us deeper in our deck. It's a self-awakener. It can take a life. So just really important. If we were playing the aggro style of the deck, we'd probably run 4 of this, 4 of the Nova, and then some of the critters just to get crit. But I prefer a control board, so I use control. Then the last Shadow Dragon that we play is the Omega Shenron, the Ultimate Shadow Dragon. This is pretty much our closer. By warping 7 Shadow Dragons in the drop area, we get to play this guy out, draw a card. Then he's a 30,000 triple striker, which is huge. It's a great way to kill Unisons. It's a great way to end the game. It's a great way to bait out negates for your cell plays in the later turns. So you play 3 of these mainly because you have to draw them as opposed to burst them. If you burst them, you just lose them. If you only played 2, I feel like you'd burst them more often than you'd see them. So I play 3 just to make sure that I have 1 in hand by the time I'm ready to close the game. Super combos, I run 4 Zamoth Sacred Disbelief. This pairs incredibly well with the 4-drop Shenron, Syn Shenron. This lets us tap down the leader again and then play another 4-drop Syn Shenron and keep opponents from attacking with lead, which denies them draw with Soul Striker. It denies them the ability to untap 2. Against other decks, it prevents them from getting into the battle step altogether to arrival their stuff. So playing 4 of these, you draw enough and you cycle through your deck enough that you don't need to draw super combos. Though if that fits your playstyle more, you absolutely could do that. I play 1 Switch Retaliation Cooler to stop, the end game negates. Like if I'm able to go into Cell and I still have all my energy open, I swing Quad Strike. They try to negate, you can drop a Cooler, and then your Cell swing gets to go through after dropping 3 cards in their hand. I play 1 Bergamo because we do tap a fair amount in this deck, so being able to tap your opponent's energy out and in their turn or leave them vulnerable for your turn is a huge swing in tempo. And then the last battle card that we play at a 1 of course, is our secret rare Cell. Sucks you've got to wait till turn 5 because realistically this deck could do it on turn 3, which I think is the biggest reason for the Cell errata in general. So turn 5, you're almost always going to be playing Cell on turn 5. If you see it, you want to end the game on that turn. You don't really want to be going into turn 6 where you might get food or Blue's likelihood to drop an Android 17 on you increases a lot by that point. So you want to end the game the turn that you drop Cell. That's it for battle cards. For the Unisons, I do run 3 of the Mechikabura. Doesn't come up all the time, and oftentimes you don't need to awaken in this deck. But if you do, Mechikabura is often how we want to do it. Your opponent, I found, the opponent spends a lot of effort and energy into blowing out your field So that your life total will stick around 6 or 7 for the entire game. It did for me almost every game on Saturday, except for the last game that I played against Matt, where he decided to go pretty hard into my leader. But usually you're going to have 5, 6 life, and then you can awaken once you put the Meki Kabora down. And plus the Meki Kabora actually won me a match, and not in the way that you would think. I didn't steal a battle card with it. I actually tapped a battle card after blocking with it, which my leader or my opponent was really thinking like they had tapped out to play the battle card, and I basically just stopped them from winning the game by activating the auto on Meki Kabora as opposed to stealing the card. So Meki Kabora is a huge momentum swing for you if you throw it down, especially if you haven't awakened yet. Moving into extra cards, the deck doesn't activate its extra cards very often, but you save them for niche situations. So we run 2 Forbidden Power. This is the new substitute for Flying Nimbus. It's just an upgrade for us. It's a combo, or more often than not, I end up charging it. I then run 2 Vegeta's Final Flash. I use these to bait my opponent from comboing out. If I'm at 3 life and they swing at me with a triple striker and they combo out their entire hand and I have an energy open, bet I've got a Vegeta's Final Flash in hand that I'm going to stop it with. I end up winning a game like that. Sorry again, Matt. I know it was an asshole thing to do. I run 2 Power of a Super Saiyan. This will just tap important things, or it could tap a Unison before your opponent gets to swing with it. It also digs you a little bit deeper into the deck. I run 1 Frieza Army Reinforcements. This would just be to protect something or to prevent you from dying really late in game. We more often than not don't end up using our negates for negates most of the time. And then I run, as a tech choice, 1 Death Blaster. Can't tell you how this card performed because I didn't draw it all night. I didn't see it once. I think I maybe milled it once, but I didn't draw it other than that. So the general thought behind this is it's just another way to disrupt your opponent if they get rid of your 9-drop. So that completes the main deck. Looking at the side deck, I boarded in a lot for hand control green matchups and matchups that I was super familiar with. So for hand control and other decks where it might be a struggle for me to resource, I played 2 of the Draw Apes, and then I also played 4 Deborah Ritual at Hand for the hand control matchup. This weekend we were expecting to see a lot of hand control at our locals. People were pretty hype on the new Brawly deck, plus Cell Surge has been running around, so I wanted to be prepared for those. I ended up citing in the Deborah Ritual at Hand against Bancroft, and he big brain played me by putting a Mask Saiyan down. So he took the card out of my hand. I threw the Deborah down. I was like, wait a minute. If I do that, I'm just going to have to warp too.
Hand controls counter.
Yeah, hand controls counter, basically. So that was pretty good on his behalf. So I played those. Against matchups that I'm really familiar with, I threw in the Meki Kabora Ritual at Hand, the Broken Seal. I had a matchup against Blue where we got into a late stage and he threw Baby Hatch down on me, so I couldn't finish the game off. So I threw down Meki Kabora the Broken Seal and called Fu 10, and he was like, yeah, that was really good. He was like, that probably just won you the game because I was going to drop Fu on you. So being able to just stop cards that you know are going to come, that your opponent is going to play. Most decks play on a tempo, so as long as you know the deck that you're playing against, you can usually pretty much gauge what your opponent is going to do. Green is probably one of the harder matchups to predict, green and yellow, but this works really well against blue and red. I cited in a 3rd copy of Power of Super Saiyan for aggro matchups if I decided that I need it. Tyrannical Blow, I put in as a one-of for matches that go wide. I didn't end up seeing in them, so I didn't sign into it. Against extremely aggro matchups like AOD, I put in 2 copies of Flying Nimbus. This also would have come in for SS4 Bardox as well. And then for big, tall matchups like Dark Brawly, Red Brawly, and stuff like that, I put in 3 of the Vegeta Unison of Fury. And this would have been another way to close out games. So that was my sideboard, and that was my Syn Shenron list. I hope you guys really enjoyed this list. I love this deck. It's one of my favorites. I think this is the next leader. If I end up getting another metal leader, I'm going to end up getting a metal leader for this guy, because I do find myself going back to it, and I really like this deck. It's maybe not the best it's ever been, especially since the errata to sell, and it lost a lot of power from that, but the deck is still extremely explosive and still extremely good at controlling the field and playing around your opponent. But hopefully you liked it. Leave me a comment down below if there's anything that you'd like to see me try or anyone on the channel try. As always, read your cards, know your plays, let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to, and fluff out.